Welcome to another video. I was playing around with the D500 and I managed to build a setting which in my case acts like a tape looper, and it's just a delay with a pretty long repeat, and with every repeat it starts to degrade just a bit, and I can freeze the loop if I want to, or not freeze the loop, I can lock the loop. So as you can hear, it starts to get really murky, and that's because the modulation depth is more at 50%, and with every repeat it adds just modulation over modulation over modulation, and the tone is minus 25%, which just kills high end with every repeat. Can make that even murkier with just cranking the modulation. And as soon as I disengage this button, it just fades out with every feedback repeat, with every feedback loop. Why do I tell you guys this? I just try to make sense of that, and it's harder than I thought before. I have mood set up as a micro looper, but let's just change to the stretch setting, with which I'm not really familiar with. So that's going to be more happy accidents than me just using the tape setting. And I could add step just to have something like a metronome going, because that one's running at, I don't know, at 50 BPM, but 50 BPM, a multiple of that is going to be the length of the loop. But that doesn't matter in this moment, so let's just try to get something into the looper. And I'll just play some random stuff. You can now hear it faded. Can crank the modulation just to make it murkier with every feedback loop. Now it gets more wobbly, and I could basically just play and play and play and just add more stuff to the loop, while what I've already recorded will just fade. But as I said, it's really hard to make sense of that, and especially when I just try to add other pedals. If I, for example, would add Fable with a higher feedback, then that will be added to the loop even if I'm not playing. So just let's just turn back the tone. So let's hear what that would sound like. that's the point where just everything broke, and I managed to get some sessions done where it really made sense, but it's so hard. But that's the thing which I really like when you have pedals on the board which are more complicated and you just start to deep dive them. You may explore something new or stumble across something that's not really familiar. And I don't know for how many years I had the DD500 and I just started to experiment with that preset that I came up with. And sometimes it's people just think you have all of those pedals and they are doing the music, but that preset is just a good example. At one point, when I wrap my head around its workings, then maybe that will start to make music with me putting stuff into the looper. But for now, it's just chaos. And for example, with Mood, it was the same at the beginning, and it was just nothing but frustrating. And now I just try to find something that works with it. I think that setting on Fable is just too much. It's way too audible, but maybe the guitar is just too bright. So let's turn down the tone a bit. So let's try it again with another algorithm. I just froze that because I really thought that is going to sound pretty cool. Let's try some stereo reverb from Mood. That's just so hard. I think at this point it really gets inaudible to a certain degree. It's just it got rid of so many high end, so much high end, that it's really hard to hear what's going on. Let's start simpler. yeah, sometimes it's nothing but frustrating, and no matter what I try now, I can't get it to work. But I mean, experimenting with all of those sounds is half the fun. So yeah, before I think about something else and just mindlessly talk, thanks for watching and see you in the next video.